Hey, so Mykah and I just finished watching season 2, episode 1 of Severance. I've been waiting for this for so long. So be prepared. There are going to be spoilers in this. So Mykah, you said you wanted to tell everybody to watch the show.
Yes, if you are not watching Severance, please do. In my opinion, it's the most interesting TV show that's on right now, and also probably the most realistic in a way, because this is a process that, if I understand correctly, you don't think so? You disagree?
Realistic? What?
Well, because that's
in the future, maybe.
I feel like
yeah,
that's a process that could happen in our lifetime, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
we don't know.
It's possible.
We don't know. I mean, cloning. It kind of has to do with cloning.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think it's cloning?
I mean, you're essentially, it's like a clone of them in it's a clone of you in your own body. It's just it's like your brain's cloned. Your consciousness is cloned within you. So there's two versions of you, but it's also kind of like you have dissociative identity disorder.
Right.
Because only one of them can be at the front or have the light, as some people like to call it, at a time.
Right.
It's really interesting, psychological thriller, if you like that kind of thing without the jump scares and more just the actual like psychology.
Yeah, the psychology part of it.
If you're into psychology, if you're into plot twists, this is the show for you. You should be watching it.
Yeah, it's right now it's my favorite show, because you know how like 10 years ago somebody's like, what's your favorite show? I was like, The Big Bang Theory. Now it's like Severance. I have been waiting for this moment. When this show came out, this episode released at 4:00 this morning, and at Central Time, and I was like dying to watch it, and I was like, I'm not going to watch it yet.
Did you stay up? Okay.
No. But I did see, I went to work earlier today. I'm not severed, so I remember what I did at work. I went to work earlier, and I saw on YouTube somebody had a season 2, episode 1 breakdown.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 12 hours earlier. And so that means they did it like already.
Immediately after watching.
Yeah, as soon as it came out. All right, so let's recap this episode. It was a lot.
It was.
There's so much that happened.
Not what I expected at all. I didn't expect to immediately be brought back into the innie world. Like, I don't know about you,
man.
but that threw me off, because they were in pure chaos. They were in the innies were in the outie world, which if you don't watch the show, you need to, because that sounds completely weird without context.
If you don't watch the show, you don't need to be watching this right now.
Yes, watch season 1 on Apple TV.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Apple TV should pay us.
I know, right?
Plug the show. Yeah. Nah, there's no need for that, dude. Everybody knows about the show. There's no need for us.
But a lot of people don't. I actually, a couple hours ago, I put on my story, like, hey, who here has watched Severance? And I give them 3 options. Yes, I've watched it. No, heard of it, but haven't watched it yet. And, like, never heard of it. Meh. And a lot of people are like, I haven't heard of it.
What?
Like, I know. I'm getting the ads constantly. I'm getting the ads constantly, but I think it's because I've expressed.
Yeah, we've been deep diving it.
Yeah.
The
show,
so I did expect a lot of the stuff that just happened, because I watched all the trailers. I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I've seen all the stuff. You know, they did like a New York City. Was it
I
Central?
did see that this morning. They went to Central Union. It's not Union Station. That's the Chicago.
Whatever the name of the train station is, Grand Central Station
in New York.
Yeah.
They went there. They had like a giant glass box, and they had the 3 cubicles that. Well, no, it was 4, wasn't it? Yeah. It was like Irving was there. I couldn't remember if Irving
What show
was
have you
there.
been watching?
It's the 4 of them, right?
Right.
With like.
Yeah, I don't think Irving was there. I wonder if was it Michael Turturro?
Yeah.
I wonder if he couldn't make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I did see.
Maybe he was in the break room.
Yeah, I saw Ben Stiller in the ad, and if you don't know, Ben Stiller is a co-writer on the show, which is. It's one of those weird things. It's like when Jim Carrey, who's known for being silly, does something serious. You're like, what?
Right.
Like, this is such a serious, heavy show, and it's Ben Stiller, who people think, like, meet the parents, meet the fathers. Right. At least that's what I think. And
he's, it's like you see a metal, like a death metal guitarist, and he's writing children's books.
Right. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it just kind of blows your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So actually, I was expecting them to be immediately on the inside, because obviously from watching the trailer,
Gotcha.
Mark wakes up like freaking out. And it's like more intense than he ever has before. Even, I think it might even be more intense than when he got shoved into the elevator after Helly tried to hang herself.
Yeah.
Because, when he came back down, he was freaked out. But this one, I think, was even more.
And if I remember correctly, he's freaking out because he's seen who he believed to be his
wife.
Who he believes to be his wife is still alive.
Right. So imagine he, at the end of season 1, he ran in and he's like, she's alive. And then that's when Milchick tackled Dylan and he let go of the buttons.
Right. That's exactly.
Or the switches. Yeah. And then the very next thing he remembers is waking up in that elevator. And that's why he's like freaking out.
Yeah.
And then he starts running through the hallways. Mm-hmm. So I was watching this with my parents and my mom said, he was like a rat in a maze. And I'm like, that's a really good analogy there.
That's what they are, really. I mean, they're essentially lab rats, guinea pigs, goats.
That's true.
Yeah.
And he was looking for Miss Casey because he runs to the wellness center. And he walks in. What did you think about when the doors were just gone?
My first thought is, even when he, woke up in the elevator, is how much time has actually passed? Because it's not
5
as if
months.
And it turns out it's been 5 months. Like he goes to find the wellness center. It's not there. It's been removed and not even covered up very well how it's been removed. There's like wallpaper missing where like a couch was or something.
Right. And the doors, you can see where the doors were, but they're like drywalled over or something.
Right. So the wellness center has seemingly disappeared.
Right. And then the camera comes in and it goes around Mark a little bit.
I loved the cinematography in this episode. It was really
so
cool.
I'm fairly certain a large chunk of that hallway had to be CG. Because the camera's going all around him. There's no way you can get that around him unless you're using a super wide angle lens. And I didn't think they were.
Yeah.
Because there had to be a lot of that with CG. Because they had to get the camera and whatever it was on, also the whole entire crew. Mm-hmm. All the way around.
That's true. I was just imagining it on a giant dolly with just Mark like pointing in a circle, but that's definitely not the case.
Well, I watched an interview too, and they said, I think Mark said that they shot that sequence through the whole entire series, or through the whole entire season.
Huh.
Because it took so long to do that they couldn't just do it in one day.
Right.
So he said he would come into work one day and they would have like a certain type of shoes or something, or his suit or whatever, and he goes, "Oh, we're running again today."
Right.
So that sequence took a lot to shoot.
Yeah, he probably got a good workout doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Over the however many months or however long it was that they were shooting it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been 3 years since the last season.
Yeah.
Almost. So
that's true.
It seems like a long time.
We waited forever.
Yes.
So what I noticed though was after the camera came around him, you see down the hallway and in the background there's like a blurry figure standing there watching him.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that was Milchick.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. My parents were like,
to me.
My parents were like, was it the guy who got killed, the security guy? And I'm like, no. That dude's gone.
No, yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he finally makes it to MDR, and then he walks in, and there's the new refiners in there. Mm-hmm. Milchick says to Mark, he's like, it's been a minute. Mm-hmm. Which, obviously, if you see the trailer and you're like not really sure what's going on, you assume that it's the very next day.
Right.
And then, in Mark's mind, Mark S.'s mind, he thinks it is the next day.
Right.
And then that's when you find out that Milchick says it's been 5 months. And then he takes him into, he's like, my old office is blah, blah, blah. Let's go to my new office. And Mark's like, your new office? Mm-hmm. So he's obviously took Cobel's spot.
Yeah.
Now he's the manager. And then I actually have written here in my notes, it says lies.
Lies?
So I think, I think these are the...
you don't believe that he took Cobel's spot?
No, what I'm getting to say next is like the stuff that I think he's lying about.
Yes. Oh, no, I totally agree. I don't...
Yeah.
So essentially what he tells Mark, right, is that the four of them, which is Helly, Irving, Dylan, and Marcus, and you'll get why we're adding this to his name probably in a little bit. They are supposedly saviors on the outside world that have totally allowed them to revamp the severance process.
Revamp
the severance process. So,
I don't think they're actually going to revamp anything.
No.
I think it's all a ruse.
No, I don't think they've done anything. I'm sure it was covered up as much as possible. I mean, Helly did, in her outie form, inside her outie body, told everyone that they were being tortured, that they were miserable essentially and wanted to be set free.
Right.
And we're supposed to believe that everyone just Lumen saw that and was like, oh, you're right. We're gonna make it better for you guys. We're gonna change the way we do the severance process. They don't really go into detail about exactly how they're gonna make it different at first.
Right.
Which I also, if I was Mark, I would have been like, what do you mean? Okay, like, so what's changed? Because, I'm still here.
Right.
What else is new?
Well, he also the stuff that he lied about was that he told Mark that he thinks Harmony is interested in him and wants to be part of a throuple.
Yes. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. And that's why she was fired, right? It's kind of like breaking interpersonal
like
work relationship roles, which to me, I don't think that was super far-fetched because she definitely has some kind of like specific interest in him.
Right.
That
but she doesn't want to like be with him.
Yeah. But she was, watching him like a hawk over season 1, right? Like watching him go into his house. And she's obviously not severed because you feel that she knows him in season 1 in the Audi world.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I don't think she's severed.
No. And neither is Milchek, which I actually didn't realize.
He says it. He says that he's not severed.
He says in this episode that he's not severed.
Right.
Yeah.
And he could be lying. You never know.
Yeah,
Maybe he believes that he's not severed.
Yeah.
Like that's what his severed chip is telling him. And then one of the other things they said was like they asked the others and they said no, like Dylan, Helly, and Irving. They said they didn't want to come back, but then they said Mark's Audi begged to come back.
Right.
But if you watched any of the season 2, the trailer, Milchek is sitting at Mark's house. I think this is going to be in a later episode. Asking him to come back, like to reconsider.
Right.
So yeah, it's just lies upon lies upon lies.
Right.
One of the girls the girl that's in the MDR, the new girl, I didn't know what they were going to call her. I think her name was Gwendolyn
Mrs.
or
Wong?
No, the other the refiner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I called her Maybe because I'm pretty sure that's the girl that played Maybe in Arrested Development.
Okay. It works.
But yeah, I thought it was funny that she was asking about the outside, like the outside world and stuff like that. Like, what does the wind feel like? Does it feel like it's just somebody just breathing on you or something like that? Right. It cracked me up.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we mention that there are 3 new refiners? So there's a Spanish-speaking gentleman whose name I don't remember. There's.
That was. Oh wait, no. I don't think they said his name.
I don't know if they did either, but there's also Mark W, I think. Isn't he Mark W? There's an older gentleman that's probably in his, 70s if I had to guess.
Right.
Hopefully that's right. I feel like it would suck to be an actor and be like, oh my god, I'm just in my late 50s and somebody thinks I'm...
He's like, I'm 33.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's there, and then like a woman that's maybe in her like 30s or 40s.
Right, and that's the one that I think played maybe in Arrested Development because and I want to say they call her Gwyneth or Gwendolyn or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I think that's right.
I thought I wrote it down, but because she was like, "Does the wind feel like you're getting breathed on?" It's so funny too because you think about it, it's like they're like children because they're asking the questions like kind of like children would, and it adds another layer to like what is it like to be an innie because she was even asking like what does the sky look like.
Right. It was the top question that they all had is they wanted to know what the sky looked like. Feels so depressing.
And then he's like, I don't know, I was worried about my brother-in-law. She's like, what?
Yeah.
How important is your brother-in-law to the sky?
Right.
So then this kind of got me. Mark writes a note and you don't really quite see what he's writing, and then he folds it up and you're like, he knows there's code detectors. But if you read the Lexington letter, it mentions that the code detectors were down for maintenance at one point. And that's how one of that Peg, that's how she got her like a notepad out into the real world.
You should give context to what the Lexington letter is, because I didn't know about that until you told me about it.
So the Lexington letter is basically it's screenshots of an email that was sent from this lady named Peg who used to work at Lumen. So this is going to get into some details. So if you haven't read the Lexington letter yet, go ahead and skip to this time right here. because we're going to talk about it for a little bit. If you haven't read it or if you do want to read it, skip to that time, and then we're going to, because we're going to talk about it for a little bit. Okay, so the Lexington letter was sent from this lady who worked at Lumen. She was apparently a bus driver before, and then she started to work at Lumen, and then a bunch of stuff happened, and then she was like, I have to get this message out. Mm-hmm. She sends this email to a lady at the Topeka Star. I can't remember her name. But she's a journalist for the Topeka Star, and then which I think is not a real newspaper. And the emails that you're seeing are of the journalist forwarding them to her editor, who essentially basically tells her, no, we're not going to do the story. But the whole thing is it's scans of a letter that this lady Peg wrote to the Star so she could get the message out. Mm-hmm. And it starts with Peg talking about how she used to be a bus driver. That was her previous job, and she hated it. And then she ended up crashing the bus with a bunch of kids on it. So she had to stay with it because I think it was snowy or something. Mm-hmm. So she had to stay with it. And then they were sent out a tow truck, and while she was sitting there, she was listening to the radio, and on the radio, cause she goes, I hate my job, is what she said. There's some vulgarity in there, which I'm not going to say. But she says, I hate my job, and then almost immediately an ad for Lumen comes on, talking about hiring people. Yeah, on the radio. So it's like just out of nowhere, it just happened to come on. Yeah. So she goes and she gets a job at Lumen, and then she goes into this backstory about this language that she used to communicate with one of her friends in, and it was just symbols, and each symbol represented a letter of the alphabet, but they weren't letters of the alphabet; they were different symbols. And I think one of them was like some boobs.
Is what they call it.
Puglish. That's right.
Yes, symbols instead of language.
Right. Which technically language is just symbols, but it's different symbols.
That's true, yeah.
It's not recognizable.
Right, only recognizable to them. It's like when you and your friends came up with like a fake language in junior high. Like, it's only they understand it. But theirs is written, so it's...
Right, and it turns out that it wasn't picked up by the code detectors. So Peggy was the innie, and Peg was the outie. Mm-hmm. And Peggy decided to like write to her outie, and she had been like turmoiling over this for a while. And she was like, I don't know if I should do this or not. So she finally wrote the letter. She got it to her. And then because Peg went up in the elevator and she felt it in her pocket. Mm-hmm. And then they end up communicating back and forth. And it's like she finally has like her best friend. Mm-hmm. It turns out it's herself is her best friend. And then Peggy mentions that she finishes one of the files. I don't remember the name of the file, but she finishes one of them. And then like 2 minutes later, a truck exploded. I think a truck exploded in like New York City or something like that. So Peg, the outie, is like, I think these are related. So that's when she started to like finally look into it. And then the reason I mentioned all of this stuff with the Lexington letter is because she mentions in there that the code detectors, Peggy ends up sending it's like a notebook, a little notebook. What was written in it? Do you remember?
Like her
what was
letter,
written in the notebook?
Her letter to Peg. Like her last one?
Yeah, because it was tucked in her waistband. Because this one actually had English. It wasn't written in Puglish.
I mean, I think she just like warned her that they were in danger and she wasn't going to communicate anymore, or that they shouldn't communicate anymore.
Right. Yeah, it was something along those lines.
Lumens, I guess, was able to figure out that they were communicating. Maybe they couldn't figure out what they were saying, but they figured out that the innie and the outie were communicating, and that's never a good thing. Right.
Oh, yeah, because she didn't talk to her. She didn't respond to her for like weeks.
Yes.
Peggy didn't respond for weeks. Right.
The innie didn't respond to the outie.
Yeah, when Peg came up, she felt something in her waistband, and she got out to her car and drove away, and then pulled it out, and it was a notepad that had like stuff written in it. Mm-hmm. No, it was the training guide. It was Lumen's training guide.
That she had written on.
Yeah. No, it was just the actual training guide. Because you remember at the end of the Lexington letter, there's a scan of the whole entire training guide.
Gotcha. Oh, that's true,
and she said in there, Peggy told Peg that if you look close enough, there are signs that something is wrong. Mm-hmm. Like if you look in the handbook. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah. So the reason that Peggy was able to get the notebook out, even though it has like words in it and everything, was because she says the code detectors were down. So apparently they take them offline for maintenance or whatever. So I wonder if this goes back to Mark writing that note. Because when you first see him writing it, you're like, why is he writing this? He knows he can't get it out.
True.
But then you see him.
But then you see where he puts it, and he ends up stuffing it in other Mark W, the new Mark that he's working with the jacket. And the letter is hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, so he puts it in his coat, and then he gets caught immediately, like the very next day.
Yeah.
And then it's so funny.
There wasn't even like Marcus.
Yeah, there was no doubt. Yeah, and they knew by his handwriting, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But then he's like, it's so funny watching Mark S's reaction, because he's like, oh no, really? I can't believe he would do that.
Yeah, what the heck, Mark W? That's so not nice that you called he calls him Mr. Milkshake, because I guess he can't pronounce milkshake, the new Mark.
Oh, let me back up a little bit to the Lexington letter.
Okay.
I don't know how closely you looked at it. Mm-hmm. But the editor of the Topeka Star, his last name is Milchik. Like, whenever he responds to the journalist's email, and he tells her like, hey, we're not going to do this because here's the obituary of Peg because she died in a car crash. It's sent from Milchik, somebody named Milchik. So there are some theories that is Seth Milchik's brother or cousin or something like that.
It's not Seth Milchik. He had a different.
No, it was a different name. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember exactly which one. I'll put it up on the screen. Yeah. But yeah, so there's that, and then actually, if you go to topekastar.com, there's a video on the website of it's from the point of view of somebody working down there, and they're walking through the halls, and they come across Mark, and he's just standing there, and he smiles at them, and then you hear in the background like there's words and people saying things, and it's kind of muffled. I read a bunch of breakdowns about like what people thought that actually meant, but then somebody broke down that like everything that's happened with Severance has been on the 18th of whatever month it's happening on. So they're saying the number 18 is involved. Yeah. No, well, it premiered on the 18th. That video that I was talking about on topekastar.com was uploaded on the 18th. Season 1 premiered on the 18th. It's like there's just a bunch of stuff about the 18th, which I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but
yeah. Now I'm going to be looking at 18 and the scary numbers.
Yeah, that's going to be good whenever we get to the end of this episode. There's some stuff about the numbers that I would definitely want to talk about. Okay, so then Mark got caught immediately, and then he gets demoted.
Yes.
Because and Milchik
for framing Mark W.
Right. Yeah. But Milchik rips that key card off of him. He's mad.
Yeah, he's fed up.
And then Mark W. got promoted into his position, which was kind of fun.
And he's like a brown noser and really excited about it.
Right. And then there's a kitchenette distraction, which Mark is like, oh, you don't know what I did to the kitchenette. And then he starts laughing. I was writing a note when this happened. Do you remember what happened in the kitchenette? Because I had my eyes down and my parents laughed. Okay.
Nothing, right?
I didn't know if there was something in there. I don't know. I missed that part.
We just see Milchik. Okay. He's like, you see from his POV looking into the room, not what he sees, but you're seeing him. And he's like, God damn it, or whatever he says, because he knows he's used it as a distraction and Mark's probably gone somewhere. And he's run all the way to Milchik's office to take advantage of the microphone over the entire office building, essentially. The speakers.
Oh, no. He wanted to talk he tried to talk to the board.
Oh, yes, he's trying to talk to the board over the speakers, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Milchik comes up there and he yanks the cord out. And then I guess that I have in my notes, it goes next to like Mark comes back down into the, Milchik stops it and sends Mark upstairs.
Yes.
Like out of the, sends him home. And then the next thing you know is he's coming down. So we don't see a whole lot of outie stuff in this episode.
No, none of it, right?
I don't think so. Yeah. I didn't want to say none because I could be wrong, and I don't want to get beat up online about it because I was wrong. But yeah, Mark comes back down, and then on the wall is that red painting of the four of them down. I don't know if they're in the water or if they're buried in the ground, or I can't quite tell what that is. Like it might be. It looks like, is it blood?
It's definitely, it has an ominous and kind of like vaguely violent touch to
Right.
it, but despite it trying to make it look like a nice, like peaceful, like office friendly painting, I think. But it's
Right.
it's like Egan. That's how you pronounce
Kier.
Huh?
One of the
Kier
Egans. Is it
yes.
Kier Egan?
Yes. Like kind of like helping them, giving them a helping hand, and like getting them out of they're in like a ditch or like below.
Right. Oh, is that what that was? I didn't notice that he
so.
was trying to help him out.
I think
I
so.
thought maybe
he's
he had
extending his arm like as if he was helping them out. Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know if he had a stick that he was like, get
Or he
back
was
down in
hammering
there.
them down. I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
Put
there's
a
no
picture up
telling.
if you want. See how
Yeah,
we're
right.
remembering it.
I literally only watched this one time, so I didn't
so
go
did
back
I.
and watch it
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So a lot of our stuff could be wrong because
Yeah.
we're remembering it wrong.
Yeah.
But then then Dylan, Mark comes out of the elevator, and then Dylan comes up. He's the next one to come up. And it's so funny. The very first thing that he talks about is he's upset that Milchick cut his favorite belt.
Yeah, I know, right?
I was like, Dylan's gonna be Dylan.
Dylan's, I feel like the comedic relief of like the group of the
Yeah.
four.
Well, I watched an interview about that, and he even said that he loves the fact that he's like silly and like playful and stuff, but then there's like a lot of heart to his character too.
Yeah. He's the only
'Cause then
one
he
that
starts to
has a family.
right.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, they do
child.
mention.
Yeah.
They do mention that he later on, Milchick tells him that he's the only one who has a family.
Yeah, he's buttering.
And that's, yeah, dude, we're only like a couple minutes into this episode. We're not gonna make it. So then Irving comes up next, and then Mark starts to walk away, and he's like, "Come on," waiting for Helly. And then Helly comes up finally, and then so this is something that I wanted to note. And again, don't beat me up; I could be wrong, but it looked like whenever Mark hugged Helly, she was hesitant to hug him back.
a little scared.
Almost right.
Yeah.
So here's my thought. This is conspiracy theory time. Everybody get your your tinfoil hat on. So the very last thing that they remember before going out and being woken up in the overtime contingency, Helly kissed Mark, and they're very it was very sweet. And then she gets in the elevator, and then they do the whole overtime contingency thing. The very next thing that she remembers coming up in the elevator and coming in, you would think, after all of that stress that she just went to, the very first thing that she would want to do is hug Mark.
Just run into his arms, right?
Right, but she was hesitant. So throughout the rest of this episode, I'm getting little bits of here and there of like, I don't think she's severed anymore.
No. I 100% agree, and I'm on that conspiracy theorist bandwagon.
Awesome.
That is not that is Helly's outie.
That's Helena.
Helena has yes. We need to make
Helena
sure
Egan.
we have different names we call them to help distinguish.
Right,
them.
right.
Helena Egan.
Yeah.
Because we also find out last season that she's related to the Egans, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
yeah, because her dad is James Egan.
Yes. So I 100% think that's Helena. She's down there for damage control. Helly probably has not been active in like 5+ months.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, none of them have for that part, but yeah. So
Right.
I think Helena is now down there, and if you watch the trailer, Helena is watching the security footage of Helly kiss Mark, and then she gets this like smirk on her face, right? And I think freaking Ben Stiller is like trying to get it to play where you think that she's like, oh, that's so sweet, I love that. But then I was reading some conspiracy theories, and somebody's like, that's Helena, and she's like, now I can use Mark. And I'm like, oh, that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So mad, because I am shipping Helly and Mark.
Right. You want the innies to be happy and have some semblance of like real life, what they would experience in the outside world. So it's disheartening to know that Helly's not there, probably.
Right. But then, how do you feel about Mark knowing that his wife is alive and then still being interested in Helly?
I think a way you can kind of, I don't know, it's complicated. It's like if someone, what's that movie, The Vow, with Rachel McAdams and Channing Tatum? She is in some kind of an accident or something and loses her memory, and she no longer wants, she doesn't know him. She actually remembers the guy she dated before him, who she was engaged to, and she wants to continue her relationship with that guy. Right. So I think it's kind of the same thing. Like he only remembers, you know, he's still not emotionally attached to whoever Miss Casey really is, whose real wife is. Right. Like, I think he cares, but he's still, any kind of feelings he have, anytime he's really spent.
Oh yeah, that's true, because he's
Helly.
Mark S, right?
Yeah.
He's Mark S. He's not Mark Scout.
Right.
So he doesn't have those years
right.
that Mark Scout.
He knows of her.
Gotcha.
And I guess some part of him could feel maybe guilty or curious, but he's still the only emotional attachment he has is to Helly. Like,
right. Yeah. He never spent any time with Miss Casey except in the wellness center.
Yeah. Although the last thing he does experience in the outie world is him being shocked that she's alive. So.
Right.
And I think that's why he's also kind of almost not super emotional when he sees Helly. Like, they're too amazed with the outie world to even focus on like the frivolous things in life, like relationships.
Right.
Like they're trying to save their lives. They're trying to become one with their outie.
Well, also they're kind of basically children, too.
Yeah.
Because
it's strange. They have knowledge, but they don't at the same time. They know of these things, but they physically haven't experienced them. It's complicated to try to imagine, like, what they actually do and don't understand. Like,
imagine being in the writer's room,
where
they're like, no, he can't do that because of this, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Like, they don't know what the sky looks like. I mean, I'm sure they've seen like videos and stuff of it, but they haven't seen it in person. It's just like if your friend goes and sees the Aurora Borealis, like, you're like, you've seen photos, but you're like, what was it like? You know, it's something you haven't experienced. So
does it feel like somebody breathing on you?
Yeah, the wind. The new woman in the office, she.
Right.
What does the wind feel like? Somebody like breathing on you, which is not completely accurate. Maybe if they were like a giant. Although I live in Chicago, so that's kind of wind that I'm used to.
Straight up wind.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is Helly asks if everybody had woken up, and then they talk for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then it's so hard to call her Miss Huang because she's like, I think it's funny, Dylan's like, what is she, like 8?
Yeah. I had to look it up because I was like, she looks like she's maybe 15. She is 18.
Right.
Okay. This is her first big role, so congrats to her.
She's doing a great job.
She plays a very, like kind of almost creepy. It's like, my first thought was that she has like the disposition of a woman, but she physically looks like a little girl.
Right.
And I don't know if that was intentional. Maybe the company wants someone that's like the least threatening person they can imagine. So they think of a little cherub-faced little Asian girl, and that's their idea of that. I don't know.
Could she be a clone or whatever of Cobel or an Egan?
Well, here's the first thought that I had that's really, really off the wall when I saw her. Mark's wife is Asian, right? Miss Casey is Asian.
Yeah.
Mark's white. To me, she looked like she could be mixed. I'm like, what if she was their daughter? Because if they had a daughter, she'd probably be about that age, like a teenager. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, way over.
I didn't think of that.
That's probably me way over. I seriously doubt that's the case.
I hope that's what happens.
But I'm like, well, if his wife's down there, I mean, what's to say they didn't have a daughter? But I mean, I think she would be living with Mark, and unless they were estranged for some reason.
Oh yeah, and they never mentioned that if he had a daughter, like she died in the car crash too.
Right. No, you kind of just understand. But they're at that age, like I'm assuming they're in their late 40s. They would have. That's about how old they would probably have a teenage daughter. Yeah.
Well, so I'm wondering if you remember when they pulled the chip out of Petey. In the first season, and they, I think it's Cobel had it, and she was like, here's Petey. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder if it has his like personality stored on that little chip,
right?
And then maybe that the Huang, Miss Huang, it could
such a serious
be,
name too. I feel
maybe she could be Cobel, or maybe she could be I don't know,
somebody's consciousness in a different body.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Somebody who's like older.
Yeah, I love the scene when they're all sitting at the table, because whenever somebody new comes into the office at Lumen, you sit at a round table and you pass a ball around and you introduce yourself and have to say something new about yourself. And Mark says that I have 4 new friends. And then she's like, I have to remind you, I'm a supervisor. And then he's like, 3 new friends. And he gives her like this smile, like he kind of wants to like beat her. I don't know.
Right. Right.
And she just smiles like.
Dude, that was like a long sequence right there where they went back and forth, and then he had that smile, and he's like, "I have 3 new friends."
Yeah, yeah.
So I see he's probably gonna try to destroy
playing into
her.
their hand too to essentially make them happy.
Because he's got to save Miss Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so then after they talk for a little bit, she takes them down to the break room, which you're like, hold on, the break room's small. First of all. How are they all going to sit in there and what are they going to do? Right. And then they have actually like revamped it to a new break room where it's actually they've made it into a break room. And then they sit there and do that weird claymation presentation.
Which claymation I've heard is really expensive to make, so I know they probably had to put in a big budget for that. I was impressed.
Well, what's funny is if you watched Parks and Recreation, Adam Scott's character, he did claymation in Parks and Recreation, and I think he said he spent like 9 months working on something or something like that, and it was like 4 seconds long.
God, that's the thing.
It's like stand in the place where you work, and that was all of it. That was the whole thing. And he's like, I spent so much time on that. But yeah, so I actually watched an interview with I think it was Dan Erickson. He's the writer. He was talking about. He's like, I've always wanted to do some like claymation and stuff. So he was very excited to put that in there. And then there was so much that happened in that freaking claymation video. It's like Lumen is listening.
Right. That was the theme and name of the video.
Right.
They're taking changes to make Lumen a better place to work. They understand that the innies were not happy, and they've been heard, and their changes are all ridiculous things like better snacks that nobody actually gives a shit about. Nobody actually cares about. Yeah, it was so like, to me, almost like offensive. Like, oh really? Like, you really expected them to be happier about that? I don't know what they were going with that, where they were going with that.
So this is my thought, is that they're just trying to put them at ease.
Right.
To kind of like make them open up so they can attack them easier. However, they're going to psychologically mess with them later. One thing I did mention, or that I wanted to mention in that that whole presentation was the pineapple bobbing.
Yeah.
So think about this. In season 1, Mark got hit in the head with that speaker, right? When Helly threw it at him. When he got out to his car, they said that he had a not serious but amusing slip up with the water cooler, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so they lied to him. In the Lexington letter, there is a part where Peggy comes up from the basement to become Peg, and her hair is wet. And she's like, "Why is my hair wet?"
Right.
So, and they gave her a card that said, oh no, that was her with the water cooler. Mark was filing something,
right?
And he hit his head on something. Yeah. So, I have a feeling, this is just a off the wall kind of feeling, that there's going to be some water torture, because if you look at the season 2 trailer, Helly's face goes into the water at some point. And I'm wondering if it's that water torture stuff where they like drown you for a little bit and then pull you up. No, waterboarding is, I think you lay on your back and they pour water on your face with a towel over it.
Right.
This is they were dunking her head in the thing.
Right.
So I wonder if they're going to be like, yeah, you were doing the pineapple bobbing, which is why your hair's wet.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my thought, is like they're gonna use that as an excuse to waterboard them or whatever that torture is called. So after the presentation, the innies are given the option to choose whether to stay or not. And then Milchick tells them there's no cameras in the break room, so they're allowed privacy, which again, I think is a complete lie. And Milchick is obviously not happy about that. And then I guess he leaves the room, and then all the refiners talk about what they saw. Right. Which, I mean, obviously Lumen's going to be watching. Like, because they have cameras in their computer monitors, so they're watching their faces while they're working.
And even they're aware of that. They said, like, yeah, like, you can believe what Milchek says, so they kind of try to, like, lean in and whisper to each other what they experienced.
Yeah, I love how Dylan is like, Irving is like, I don't want to say anything because they have cameras, and Dylan's like, yeah, he said that, just whisper.
Yeah, and Dylan, from what I remember, he kind of just focuses on, like, the fact that he has, like, a family and a child and all this. Irving, he doesn't fully go into everything he experienced. He doesn't say anything. He walks away. Oh, that's later that he.
Yeah. He told Dylan that later.
Mark explains what he experienced.
Mark was completely truthful.
Mm-hmm. And then Helly, and this is actually when I first like really thought like, oh, is this Helly? She says that she woke up and she was in a boring apartment. She went outside. It was night, and she spoke to a gardener. And
she talked to the night gardener.
Yeah, the night gardener. Okay. And the gardener said that he had a brother-in-law in the police and that they reported it or whatever. And that's the last thing she remembers. Yeah. And the story is just kind of so unremarkable that it doesn't feel true. I feel like they kind of, Mark might know that something's not right. I feel like you can tell when someone is not themselves, and she's quite literally not really herself, I don't think, so.
Right. Well, because she doesn't know what Helly was like. Helena doesn't, unless she watched some of the video.
Oh, I'm
she
sure,
doesn't know what
Helly
was like.
Very prepped on what to expect.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has been 5 months.
Right. And she, at first they're not in there, right? They're not in there until Mark, like, asks to see his friends. He wants to hear it from them, right? When he first comes back and he asks Milchek, hey, like, how...
He basically demands.
Yeah.
He demands
and Milchek says that's not possible.
Right.
And then a day later it is possible. Yeah, it seems like he was able to get everybody back down there. I don't think it was
I don't think it was a day. Yeah. I think it was like either several days, maybe 3 days or a week or something like that. So I think I mentioned this earlier, was how does Helly feel about Mark being married? Mm-hmm. And then Helly lied about what she saw. Mm-hmm. That was where I wrote down. I was like, I don't think Helly's severed anymore.
But she also could just be afraid because she doesn't want them to turn on her or not trust her in the first place. Because the second they find out she's an Egan, they're going to be like, how do we even know? They might just cut her out of the circle, be like, she can't be trusted. We don't even know if she was ever really severed,
That's a good point. Giving her the benefit of the doubt. But that is a really good point.
Right. So I think even if I experienced that, I mean, even I might be a little scared if I put myself in her shoes to tell the truth, because I don't want to be... You're so alone already, you don't want to be pushed out of the circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no telling, man. There's such good writing in this whole entire show.
Yeah.
So, after they leave, because Irving walks away, and then Dylan, I think, kind of follows him, which leaves Helly and Mark to talk as they're walking down the hallway. And Helly, she was acting like a girl who's interested in a guy and trying to, like, get information from him kind of in a flirtatious way a little bit. Because she was asking, like, did Miss Casey look happy in the wedding photo?
Right.
Because she's trying to, like, get a feel for, if she is Helly, she's trying to get a feel for how Mark now feels knowing that he has a wife.
Right.
And then
like, can we still be a thing? Like,
right. And she tries to convince Mark that the innies and the outies are not the same people. Like, they're completely different people, which would lead to believe that she is really, really trying to get him to, like, be with her, which could be Helly being, what is she, like, 3 months old by this point? Like, how long she's been alive. But so she's basically still, like, an adolescent. She doesn't know how to do it right, so she's trying to, like, get him to choose her. Or she's Helena trying to be like, hey, how do you feel about this now? Yeah, trying to get the information from him.
Yeah.
And then we go down to Irving and Dylan, and this is like kind of, we get a little bit of, like, we see how much Dylan really cares.
About Irving. I feel like Dylan and Irving are kind of like, how there's a friend group, but there's also sometimes two best friends within a friend group, and it might be two of the
right
people. Yeah. I feel like Irving and Dylan have that relationship. Like, they're like bros. Even though they're so
because
different.
they both care about each other. But obviously, you know, when you with your sibling, you're like, you shut your mouth. I don't care about you, but then you're like, oh, man, I love them so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then Dylan stops Irving from leaving. I said Irvin.
No, okay.
Dylan, it's going to be Dilling and Irvin.
Yeah.
Dylan stops him from leaving. And then I had a question at this point because Irving is standing right by the door. And if you remember from season 1, when Helly was going in and out of that door, as soon as she crossed the threshold, she became Helena, even with the door still open.
Right.
So in this instance, why couldn't Dylan be on the inside, Irving step through the door, and then Dylan tell Irving about what's going on? And then now Audi Irving knows what's going on the inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm like, does it work that way, though?
Answer that question, Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, because like when Helly walked through the door and Milchick was standing out in the hallway or in the stairwell waiting for her, the door was open. She became Helena as soon as she walked out. The door didn't have to close.
Right.
As far as I understood it.
Yeah.
And then they could. I think it's
true.
as soon as they crossed the threshold, so they could have stood there and talked to each other.
I thought it was as they're going up and down the elevator, they're rewiring.
Right, but also that stairwell too. Like, remember Helly? Like she as soon as she pushed the door open, she was back in Lumen again. Like no matter how many times she tried to go out, she came back in.
Gotcha. Yeah, in season 1. Okay,
and then they cut to later where they showed what actually happened, but they show it from the Audi's perspective.
Right.
Where she comes out and then she's like, "Man, I really don't want to be in there, do I?"
Yeah. Right.
And then Milchick was like, "Come on, you got this. You can go back in." So it makes you wonder, like, why can't one stand on the outside, one on the inside, and they tell each other what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
Obviously, they could probably watch that happening, but you'd still get some information
Keep
out of it.
Two of them away from the stairwell at the same time. Yeah.
The Star Wells, it works.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Irving, at this point, Irving tells Dylan that Bert, where was it at? Irving tells Bert that is married and that he saw him together with somebody else. He doesn't know if he's married or not, but he saw him with somebody.
Was it with a woman? I can't remember.
No, it was a guy.
Okay, so he is married to another man on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look through the window, it was him, and it looked like a red-haired guy.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's my remembrance, my recollection of it. But my severed brain maybe messed up. But then Irving ends up telling Dylan about the easel and him painting the door with the elevator in it. And then Dylan is like, "Yeah, I know. We all know that. It's the break room." And he goes, "No, this one's darker."
Right.
And he says it has a red triangle above the door, which goes down to, from what I understand, Cobel called it the testing floor in season 1, which that's where Miss Casey got sent. So I'm curious to what goes on in the testing floor. I'm like, is that where they send the non-severed people, or not non-severed, but like permanently severed people?
Maybe that's where they go to permanently sever them to get rid of who they were before they came to work at Lumen, and have only that person that works at Lumen exist. Yeah.
But then where does Miss Casey go whenever she's not in the wellness center? Like,
I think she's always in the wellness center.
Well, no,
because she have to eat and sleep, right? Though.
She said that she was only like, what is it, 107 hours old or something like that, or something. I don't remember, but it was like some number of hours, and she wasn't that old. So it's I wonder if she's always in the testing floor. Maybe she's in like some kind of vat where she's like asleep and they've got like nutrients pumping through her body or whatever.
Yeah. I'm thinking like Don't Worry Darling, if people have seen that movie where it's
that was creepy.
Oh gosh, what is her name?
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, and Harry Styles' character has her hooked up to a bed, imagining this perfect kind of 50s style lifestyle where they're both better looking, have great jobs, everything's wonderful, and really he's just
he gets whatever he wants out of it.
Yes.
And she's a prisoner.
Right. It's
however, Olivia Wilde's character is chosen to go in there because her kids are there. Right. And her kids died on the outside.
Another movie that also, my mom and I were actually talking about Severance because she also likes Severance. Have you seen Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind? that movie kind of has similarities to Severance, except you're severing a relationship from your memory. And like
only certain parts of it.
Right. It's your whole history as if you never, dated this person or if you were married. That's like the concept of that.
Right.
Yeah. Movie. So.
Yeah. That was, again, you were talking about Jim Carrey earlier about him doing, I don't know if that was in
role,
this
that's why I thought of that. Yeah.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a serious role for him. I love that movie. I think it's
that
a good
and the
movie.
Truman Show.
Yeah, the Truman Show. That's another great one.
Right. Okay, so I thought this was super sweet when Dylan confides in Irving that he doesn't want him to leave because he needs him.
Yeah.
He's like, I work better and I work harder because you're here, and I was like, Dylan, you're so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Dylan's like the definition of a teddy bear to me.
Yeah.
I like his character a lot, and he's obviously likable enough on the outside to have a wife and children. So sorry, there was like a fly. So, he's probably a decent guy. And, Mark was married. Irving, obviously, I mean, it's probably more complicated for him because he's a gay man. And then Helly's possibly the spawn of evil and actually a really terrible person. So,
right. We don't know much.
Mark might actually be a terrible person because Mark sent himself in there and...
to forget about his wife.
Yeah, which it's like, so we're supposed to empathize with that and kind of almost use it as an excuse, but it's the fact that he's sending himself in there when he knows his and he doesn't want to be there. I'm like, you kind of have to be a little bit of an asshole to do that, right?
But how would he know that his Zenny doesn't want to be in there?
No, he doesn't know, but I'm saying real Mark, outside Mark, might actually be an asshole, is what I'm saying.
No, yeah.
He's probably a bad guy, not a nice...
You were saying that he part of the reason why you thought he might be a bad guy was because his Innie didn't want to be there. But there's no way that he would know that his Innie didn't want to be there.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's only so much you could overlook, though, like hitting your head, coming with these injuries. Not only that, but something that hasn't really been talked about so much in the show is physiological stress and like psychological stress and the way it impacts the body. If you have a really stressful day at work and you're quickly severing out of your, like, within how many, the elevator seems like it's less than 10 seconds, like, you would still feel this, like, physical signs of stress. Right. Which, at least I would think so, right? I'm pretty sure that's how the body works.
Yeah, you definitely would. Like,
so
if
your heart's racing, you'd be like, what just happened? It's kind of almost like waking up from a nightmare where you might not even necessarily remember immediately what you were dreaming about, but the signs of physiological stress are there. Your
body's like worn out. Right. You're sweating.
Right. I just think in a real way, in the real world, they would know, and you would feel the impact of your day, whatever happened. If it was stressful, frustrating, the body knows. The body keeps the score. it knows that something's wrong, and he would be able to tell that. I feel like they would all be able to tell that. Dylan, he doesn't seem to be someone that experienced a lot of stress, so it might be harder for someone like him. Irving seems like he might be depressed outside of his out. He might also be as sad as his in he is. I mean, the bleak painting, his room, I remember, was really dark and kind of dreary.
Well, bleak paintings, like, that's all he paints over and over and over again.
So that tells me that he's... my thoughts is that people that agree to go into the Severance process, a lot of them probably have mental health issues.
Okay, could be, yeah.
Or there are people like Helly, and they're here to do a job, and, like, they think they're probably bettering the world in some way, like they're on a mission. Right, yeah. So.
Yeah, because that was her whole thing, is that's why Milchick was following them around with the camera in season 1, was to document Helly's process.
Right. Yeah, Helly went there to essentially show what it's like. She sacrificed herself as a test rat for her father's company. Or not her father's company.
To do the documentary about it.
Yes, exactly.
So they do address it a little bit, the physiological
do they?
Like toll that it takes, but it's on the Innie's body. Because Irving is falling asleep at his desk. Right. He's gotten in trouble several times for falling asleep at his desk.
Outside. Yeah.
Yeah, because if whenever we go to the outside,
and then he's tired.
All he does is he drinks coffee and he paints.
Yeah.
and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
and we don't know if he ever sleeps.
Right.
So his Annie is falling asleep at work, and that's when he's dreaming of the black blobs coming in, because it's the black paint that he's always using.
Yeah, you'd be so bitter at your Audi, wouldn't you? Like, stop torturing me, man. I just want to feel okay. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But that's Mark addresses that too in whenever Helly first gets there, because she comes in the season 1. She's like, she came in and she goes, so I guess it's morning now or tomorrow now, and he goes, no, it was the weekend. She goes, a weekend happened.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he was like, don't focus on the passage of time or sleeping, because we never get to experience it. Like, focus on the feeling of what it's like to sleep. Yeah, because sometimes you might feel rejuvenated or happy or whatever.
Right.
So they do address it a little bit, but that's what you said. But it's not like they haven't gone too deep into it yet.
Yeah, but like Mark, when they're coming into this episode, when Dylan's in the control room and he gets yanked out, and then Mark he's the first person that comes back but it's actually 5 months later, sure, technically, physically.
Right.
He's in his mind, just the second that he's back in, he's, stressing, freaked out. The last thing he saw his supposedly dead wife's picture.
Right.
That's Miss Casey.
Any Mark didn't know that was his wife.
Right. Right. No, he did. He sees the picture of them married though, and then he's like, she's alive.
How did he? That's okay. How did he know? This is not season 2 at all.
Yeah.
How did Mark know that she was dead?
I think it's talked about. I think like Milchek or someone lets him know that his wife passed away on the outside. Like, I think he knows that. He's been told that knowledge from.
Okay.
If I remember
that just
correctly.
Hit me.
Yeah.
That just hit me. Like, how does any Mark
somehow?
know? Right.
But he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't, know.
I'll have to go back and watch it all over again.
I know, right? To be really good at what we're doing, we should really watch the episodes like
we're not the best at it.
Amateurs here. Amateurs.
Yeah. Well, we're just doing it because we enjoy the show and we like
and we want to hear other people's theories. Like, I want to know. My mom will hopefully watch this. Number 1 fan.
Right. Yeah, if you made it this far, comment down below like some of your thoughts and stuff.
And give her own theories on what she thinks is happening. She said there's another show that is a lot like Severance, or a movie that exists, that she was going to look up and try to tell me what it is. Because she's like, this isn't like the first concept of a show like this. I'm like, it's not? I don't know.
Oh,
we'll see if she can prove it to me.
Let me know whatever on the next one that we do.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so we just finished with Dylan confiding in Irving, trying to telling him that not to leave because he needs him, right? And we said that was super sweet.
And Irving also confides in Dylan, though. That's when he tells him that he went and saw Bert, and Bert's married.
Right.
And
then he mentioned the easel, and Dylan was like, "They have easels out there." He focuses on the little things, which crack me up.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying about Bert?
Well, Bert's married, so on the inside they were obviously having a romance, right?
Right.
So it's a bummer, I guess, for him, because if he were to be fused with his Audi, he probably wouldn't be in a relationship with Bert, because Bert's now unsevered. His severed since his innie is essentially killed off when he retired. When you retire from Severance, your innie essentially
just
goes to heaven, or what atheists, I guess, believe happens when you die. They just cease to exist.
Yeah, it's just nothing.
And now he's just in his Audi life. Oh my God, what if we all, what if we actually are all innies, and then we go back to our real lives after we die?
When we die.
Now I'm getting way too distracted. But
philosophical.
Yeah, philosophical. So they confide in each other.
Right.
And it kind of sets the tone that maybe they are both going to stay and accept Milchek's offer to continue to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Because, I mean, first of all, the season won't be the same without them. So they have to stay for that reason. But, try not being meta it's... I think they've both decided to stay because Dylan needs Irving, and then Irving, I guess... Does Irving feel like the father around there, I guess? Because he's like, hey, kids, what's for dinner?
I think he's just the oldest person there, so I don't know. It's like if I were in a room with high schoolers, I might call them kids. I don't know. I don't know if he necessarily feels like a father figure. I don't know who's chronologically been there the longest. Do you remember that?
Well, I don't know. Mark, I know Mark said he's been there for 2 years.
2 years, yeah. I think he might have been there the longest.
Yeah, that might be why he's in charge.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I think that's probably the case. Helly's obviously the most recent
the newbiest
hire. Yeah, the newest, yeah.
So after all of that, we cut to Milchick in his new office. And I don't know, I wrote this down because it feels like there's going to be some kind of reason behind it. But the terminal that Milchick would have in his new office still says Cobel on it. And then that bothered him. And then he calls, I don't know who he calls, but he requests somebody to come and fix it because it's supposed to be his name, and he was upset about it. And it keeps going for so long, and then he finally just shuts it off.
Right.
And then Milchick goes and he meets with Dylan to go into, they go into the, I want to say the break room, but they went somewhere where he lays out a blueprint for, what is it called? Audi Family Visitation Suite. Where
it's a new feature after the revamp, right?
Right. Because it's now like, Dylan is like, does this mean that we can visit our Audi families?
Right.
And then again, obviously, I think all of this stuff is a lie. They're just like telling them this to get them to feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
To trust them a little bit.
Them. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it.
And it's funny. In this part of the thing, Dylan asks Milchick about the belt. He's like, because he's so upset about it, and I think he said something like, "Are you gonna replace my belt?" or something like that. And then here we find out that Dylan's wife, his Audi wife, her name is Gretchen. And then with that visitation suite, Milchick tells him that the actually, I don't know if he directly says it. I think Dylan mentions it, like he thinks that's what it's about, and then Milchick is like kind of along the lines of, sure, if that's what you want to think.
Right.
Like, I don't think he actually directly says that that's what it's for.
Right.
And then again, more lies. He tells him that, well, no, this is actually true, I think. He tells him that everyone else is single. And then he doesn't want him to tell the others about the visitation suite.
Right.
No, sorry.
No?
He doesn't want Dylan to tell the others that he is the only one that isn't single because he doesn't want to upset everybody else.
Right. Which I don't think they would care.
Right.
I mean, I guess it'd be nice to know, but it'd almost be painful at the same time.
Right. Yeah, because one of the questions that Helly asks in season 1, she's asking Mark something about, like, so you could be married on the outside and not know it and have a relationship with somebody in here. So, yeah, it's obviously on their minds.
Your body could be cheating, essentially.
Yeah. Man, that brings up a lot of questions. Like, if you as the Audi found out, or not the Audi, but the Audi's spouse, you found out that they were with somebody on the inside, like... Just one more reason I would never get severed. Right. But can you be mad at them? Like, obviously, yes, you can if you want to. But is it it's such a huge gray area.
I wouldn't blame
wouldn't you?
I wouldn't. I'd be like, I mean, I wouldn't want like any. I mean, surely you're not being super intimate at work, but it's even be weird to know that I feel like kind of bad being like, oh yeah, oh god, my innie is like kissing this person that I don't know. I mean, what if they have herpes? Like, I don't know.
It's just a real gray, like a murky gray area.
Yeah, but it's like, what am I gonna do? Record a video to myself and be like, hey, stop seeing that person. I don't like that. I don't want my lips, which are technically your lips, sure, touching somebody else that I don't know. I'm in charge here. You're my slave, essentially. Right. Which is kind of what it is anyway, so.
Well, no, that's if you're the Audi. I'm talking about the Audi's spouse. Like, how would they feel?
Ooh, yeah, that's another, I mean, it's another layer of awkward. Yeah.
Like, if your fiance was severed. That's what I'm saying. If your fiance was severed and he ends up in there with, like, some troll.
Yeah. If he wanted to get severed, I'd be like, I don't think this is gonna work. I mean, I know my actual fiance would never do that.
Right.
He doesn't even want to take Tylenol, so I don't see him getting severed.
You're saying that he's not going to let somebody perform brain surgery on him to remove his work memories?
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it either, but like there are people in my life who I think would choose to get severed if they could for their work life because they don't like their jobs and they despise working.
Yeah, I understand that. It's like, oh, here's an idea. Here's a movie that kind of goes along with that, like you were talking about earlier, where your mom was like, I know this has been done before. Click. The movie Click with Adam Sandler. Where he fast forwards through all the things he doesn't want to do.
Oh, yes.
And then it remembers it, and it fast forwards through them all the time. And sometimes he's like, no, I don't want to skip that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
he
that's
can
one.
Rewind though. He still has way more freedom and capabilities than.
Could he rewind?
I think there's like some kind of technical issue than the movie he can, but realistically, you should be able to, if you can fast forward, you should be able to rewind.
But if it always fast forwards past those parts, then even though if you rewind, it'll still fast forward past them. You know what I mean?
My brain is the internet.
So
if you playing in my head.
If you fast forward past event 1 every time it comes up, or event A every time it comes up, and then one day event A comes up and you're like, I actually want to do that, the remote is going to remember and it's going to skip over it.
Right. I think that's what ends up happening. He wants to skip over certain things.
That's the whole dilemma of the movie, and because he ends up missing his whole life.
Right.
At the end, I think they give him the option to rewind it and start over.
Yeah.
But if the remote...
if I remember correctly, he tosses the remote as he should.
Right, after he rewinds back to the beginning. But yeah, if it did skip over every time and you rewound it, then once you got back to event A, it would skip over it again. You know what I mean? Like, so if it was constantly skipping it, even if you rewound it, it would still skip it.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, this is so philosophical that like nonsense that's like never even gonna matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Milkshake is talking to Dylan.
Milkshake, I think that's his new name now.
Yeah. After he talks to Dylan in the room and tells him about the new that new suite, we cut to Miss Huang, and she's working on her computer. So it looks like she's playing a game. What's that game where you have like the little arrows? It's a board game, and you got the like brown and white arrows pointing across from each other, and there's like little tiles that line up on them. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of that game.
Are you talking about Etch-a-Sketch?
No. This is like
she's playing the hoops game.
Before that, when she's on her computer, I can't remember the name of that game.
Yeah.
I wrote it down, but I couldn't remember the name of it, so I was like, she plays some game. Let's see. Backgammon. So it looks like she's playing a form of backgammon, because there's like circles on one side and they got these little slots on either side of it, and it may not be backgammon, but it kind of looked like that. Right. That's what it reminded me of. Right. I wonder if that's her version of what the refiners are doing. You know, like maybe the refiners are messing with people's memories, and then Huang is in here messing with like people's demeanor, or I don't know, whatever she's adjusting in there. Yeah. I don't know if that's what they're doing in the MDR. I just assume that it's something to do with the memories and the chips.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's messing with that, and then she goes on to play that little the ring game in the water with Kier's hands up above his head. Yeah. And she gets one. I was like,
she has a little satisfied smile. Like,
well, I was wondering, like, how many takes did that? Like, how long did they have to play that game before they got that ring on there?
That's funny. I didn't even think about that.
And with as detail-oriented as they are with Severance, I wonder if they were like, because I think one was red and one was green. Like, what if they kept getting the green one on there, and they're like, we want the red one to land on there? Yeah. So I wonder if they had to keep doing it.
Who knows? For all we know, it never happened, and it was just CGI put together because nobody could get the ring around.
It's AI. AI did it.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
And then, once that happens, then we go to Mark and Helly. And they're smiling at each other in MDR. And then, as they're standing there, and then that could be her being excited that she's in there to work with him again. It could be that she's like, I've got him under my thumb now. Or maybe she does maybe she's conflicted too. Like, she's like, I want to like control what happens in this outcome, but I also do kind of like him, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they all come together and start working. And then Dylan finds the little wooden carving of that one dude's head.
Yeah.
On his desk, and he chucks it into the drawer, which is kind of similar to what Mark has from Allentown with his little crystal glass head. Yeah. And he throws it in the drawer. And then this is something actually, after this happened, I went back and watched this clip over and over and over again to look at it. Because think about this. So Mark is working on, one of the files that he's working on is called Cold Harbor. And he's going through and doing the normal refining stuff. And then as soon as he refines some of the numbers, I think it was into bin 3, it glitches out a little bit. And then we see Miss Casey's face.
Yes, yeah.
And then in the top left corner, it says Cold Harbor. So there have been some conspiracy theories going around that the chip in their heads causes them to see the numbers on the screen. And what is actually on the screen is like images or video of something. Right. And then they are actually refining the data to like, what does this image make me feel or whatever. So he was smiling at the screen before it cut away. He looked really happy. And all he's seeing is the numbers, but then they glitch it out to where we see Miss Casey's face.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the theory is correct that they are refining memories or something to do with another severed person's chip. I wonder if he has been working on it with Cold Harbor, if he's working on Miss Casey now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then maybe that's what the testing floor is about. Maybe they're testing what the refiners have done to them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also think of in the Lexington letter, she's a refiner, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, she worked in MDR.
So she works with the number. Yeah. What, MDR, is that what it is?
Macro data
refinement. That's right. She gets the sense that, the scary numbers might, be some terrible event that happens.
Right.
I mean, when I read the Lexington letter, I got the sense that they caused the crash.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
So how did they do that?
Right.
It's is it code numbers for a bomb, but now there's these images coming into it? Are they,
It could have been
the truck driver's memory. I mean,
it could have been that they were messing with that truck driver or a spy or somebody's chip, and then that's what they actually ended up getting him to go out and blow everything up.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's possible. Only time will tell.
Thoughts on the episode? The episode in one word. What are your thoughts on the episode in one word?
Oof. I know this was my idea to do, but I'm that's a hard one.
I'm trying to think
just maybe lies, like you were saying earlier.
Lies.
Lies,
I want to say, I know it's 2 words, but it's hyphenated, so technically it's 1 word, but eye-opening.
Eye-opening, yeah.
But not really, because your eyes are kind of squinty at this point, because everything's gray.
Right, yeah.
So, maybe eye-opening is not the right word, but...
Yeah. What's another word? Misleading, misled, I don't know. Yeah.
Misleading is definitely a good 1-word summary of the whole entire... Because everything... I want to say 30 to 50% of what was said in that was probably a lie.
One thing that I understand, but I don't understand about the show, I guess, is everything is so, sterile, white.
Right.
It gives off no feeling. They don't want to, arouse any kind of emotion in the severed people. In the refiners, Right. Which I guess makes sense, because you don't want them to have any memories. You want to make things sterile, clean slate.
But then what's the point of the artwork and stuff?
Right. I don't know why they would do that, other just to be creepy and weird. Occasionally have a piece of art in this super sterile environment.
Well, it does give off some sort of religious vibes too.
Oh yeah, kind of.
Of because they always have
Jesus.
Some kind of art hanging up.
Yeah.
It's Kier though.
Yeah, Kier.
And actually, I don't know if it was in this episode or if I saw it in a trailer, but I think it was in this episode. Milchick talks. I think he's talking to Mark, and he talks about whenever they put the doors on MDR and they were locking them in, they said that it was preceded or something like that by the hymn that Cobel sang. You know, where she's like, "Kyrie, chosen one, Kyrie." You remember whenever she just creepily sings that?
Yeah.
So that something, I think there's some kind of ritual that she had to sing that for them to be able to come in and put the doors in. Because that's what it seemed like to me, but I don't remember where I saw that. I'm pretty sure it was in this episode.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, we're getting off on a bunch of different tangents. Yeah. We definitely need to wrap this guy up.
Yeah.
Predictions on the next episodes and the rest of the series. Where are they going? Do we have anything like that? Do you want to get into that, or?
The only thing that I can think of that might be interesting is going with the theory that Helly is now just outie Helly.
Yeah.
I'd be interested if she actually did start to care about the people around her.
Yeah, that'd be a cool little story arc.
And it would become kind of complicated. It's like kind of
and
like
then she brings down the Egans.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you're working as an undercover cop, but you start to kind of like sympathize with the criminals you may be working with, or like, they're just trying to feed their family. They're just trying to potentially just being human, because I mean, once you're in a situation with people, it is sometimes easier to empathize with them and realize that they're may not be the enemy that you believe them to be, or the person that you believe them to be.
Right. True that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you start to get to know somebody, you're like, all right, this is who they really are.
Depending on the kind of person you are, like, I'd never be able to do it because I think I forge bonds with people too easily or too quickly. I think the guilty conscience thing, I think, would bother me. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I became best friends like super fast.
Yeah.
But we had very, very similar interests.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped. Okay, so if you're ready.
Yeah.
Goat Watch 2025. Where are the goats?
We don't know what the goats are about. I did, when they showed their recap of season 1, they did show a clip of the guy feeding the goats and saying, like, they're not ready, or whatever he says. Right. It's super weird.
Have you seen any of the season 2 trailer?
I thought I did, but you also mentioned many things
there's a
today
lot.
That I don't remember.
There's a lot
you see the goats?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
There's like hills in the rooms. Like, you remember how Bert and Irving went into that one room that was all plants? Mm-hmm. So imagine that, where there's a ceiling and there's walls and it's like a giant conference room, but there's like hills of grass that go almost up all the way to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then there's goats running around.
Interesting.
But there's also a woman who is like, she's standing there and she's like kind of dirty and it looks like she's been like in the middle of a war. And then she's standing there and you see Helly and Mark walk in and she goes, "Are you here to kill me?" And Mark is like, no. And then there's another one where there's a guy and I don't know what he's wearing, like some kind of like thick fur type stuff, but he's got a hood that has like horns sticking out of it. And I want to say he's like the goat king or whatever.
Yeah. I still have no idea what's going on with the goats. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if it was you, but was it you that had the theory that the goats are the founders and their brains are in the goats?
That wasn't me, but I read that online.
Okay.
I read that. It was a conspiracy theory that the goats are being bred for to put the minds of the Egans into. To like maybe grow them. I don't know what they were going to do. Maybe it's temporary.
I don't know why you would do goats.
Well, there's also I read another fan theory that said that since the whole Severance culture or whatever has like a religious feel to it. Yeah. Goats are typically used for sacrifice.
Yeah. They are a significant animal in a lot of religion.
Right. So. One of the theories was like that they're going to be sacrificed, but then somebody else was like, that's a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah. They're raising baby goats.
Right.
We don't know why. We didn't see them in this episode, but rest assured, if we do see them in the next episode, we'll mention the goats.
Yeah, Goat Watch 2025 is coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to follow along with that. All right, I think that's everything, unless you got anything else.
Nope, I feel like we have a ton of content to work with, so...
So thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, I know it's super long. And don't forget to subscribe so you can follow us and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll see you back here next week.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Man, I really enjoyed that episode. That was like really, really fun.
Try to enjoy each episode equally. Was that good?
That was good.
Okay, cool.
I wasn't looking at you, so I gave like a little reaction.
Okay.